April 1945. A converted school gym outside Münster, Germany. Rain pressed against high windows, leaving the air damp and metallic. The floor smelled of old chalk and wet wool. Jakob Miller, 16, stood barefoot with 30 other boys, ribs sharp beneath thin shirts stiff with sweat. They had been marched in before dawn, told nothing, fed nothing. When the guard shouted hands up, Jakob felt his shoulders lock. He believed this was how punishment began. They all did. They had learned that commands were never gentle. Jakob's hands shook above his head. He stared at a long wooden table, where metal basins waited, steam curling faintly upward. The boys whispered prayers without words. A guard moved down the line, boots quiet on stone. No blows came. Instead, the man placed a pale bar of soap into Jakob's open palms. It was warm, still holding heat. The scent was unfamiliar, clean, almost sweet. "Wash," the guard said, not loudly. "Just once." Water splashed. Soap softened. Fear loosened its grip, not all at once, but enough to breathe. The soap became something else in Jakob's hands, not a test, not a trick, but permission to feel human again. Around him, kettles hissed, lids rattled, and a clerk named Ernst Vogel adjusted the flame beneath them. Jakob watched steam bead along the window frames and drip to the sill. His stomach cramped, empty. But his breath slowed. The guard waited, arms folded, eyes lowered, as if the room required patience. This was not the ending Jakob had prepared for. He rinsed, fingers numb, and felt the room hold steady around him. But this was not the moment he would remember forever. It was only the beginning of something quieter, carried forward in shared water, soap, and a command that did not bruise or demand pain. The basins were filled from kettles that hissed softly, steam fogging the windows. Jakob rubbed the soap between his palms, surprised at how quickly it lathered. White foam slid over dirt-dark skin, carrying weeks of grime into cloudy water. The warmth seeped into his fingers, then his wrists. Around him, boys leaned closer to the basins, shoulders lowering, breath slowing. No one spoke. The only sound was water and the dull scrape of enamel. Jakob noticed details he had forgotten mattered. The smoothness of soap worn thin at the edges. The way steam softened the smell of sweat, the sting where skin had cracked. He had believed the guards saw only bodies to move, numbers to count. He had believed kindness was finished. A guard returned with more soap, setting it down carefully, as if it could break. His name was Karl Brenner, stitched in thread above his pocket. He waited until every boy had washed. No hurry. No threat. He nodded once. What happened next changed everything. When the washing ended, Brenner reached for a small towel, coarse but dry, and handed it to Jakob. The soap, now smaller, rested on the table. It had changed from something feared into something shared. Jakob dried his hands slowly, tracing a crack in the basin's glaze. Relief came with weight, heavy as sleep. Time stretched strangely after that. Bread arrived in thin slices, passed hand to hand. A cook named Marta ladled soup that tasted of salt and carrots. Evening settled without shouting. Jakob lay on a bench, palms clean, the faint scent of soap rising as he slept. But this was not the ending either. It was a pause, held open by warm water, patient hands, and the unsettling thought that gentleness could exist here. Morning would test that. He closed his eyes, listening to rain ease off the roof, carrying the night forward, one quiet breath at a time. The soap waited, pale and steady, on the table, unchanged yet already different, promising nothing, demanding nothing, simply present for the next pair of hands to lift, lather, rinse, and trust. May 1945. Morning light slid through cracked windows of the former gymnasium outside Münster, Germany. The rain had stopped overnight, leaving the air cool and still. Jakob Müller stood in line again, barefoot on stone, the chill creeping up his legs. Bread crusts lay on a crate nearby, crumbs scattered like sawdust. The soap returned before roll call, passed down the line in careful hands. Its surface was nicked now, edges softened by many washings. Jakob watched the smallest boys step forward first. One was named Lucas Hartmann, barely 13, sleeves hanging past his wrists. No one rushed him. Guard Karl Brenner stood nearby, arms loose at his sides, repeating instructions instead of barking them. "Slow," he said once. "Everyone gets a turn." The words felt strange in the room. Morning and night, the routine repeated. Wash. Eat. Count. Rest. The soap became a square of order in days that had none. Jakob noticed how voices stayed level, how boots no longer triggered flinching. The boy's shoulders dropped. Breath came easier. Fear loosened by degrees, not promises. Weeks passed in small pieces. Soup thickened slightly. Towels dried on lines. Jakob warmed the soap in his hands before returning it, careful not to drop it. It was not his, yet it felt entrusted to him. Safety, he learned, arrived through repetition. Through something ordinary done again and again, without being taken away. The real shock came later. When the camp dissolved, Brenner pressed the worn bar into Jakob's pocket. "For the road," he said. The soap was lighter now, but it carried the weight of quiet mornings, and the knowledge that fear had not been the final lesson. Jakob closed his fingers around it as they walked out, unsure where the road led, but certain of what he carried forward with him. Clean hands, steady breath, and a memory that did not bruise, only held, patiently, without asking for anything back at all. October 1989. A small bathroom in Cologne, Germany. Cool air drifted through an open window, carrying the sound of leaves scraping pavement below. Jakob Müller, now 60, stood at a porcelain sink while his grandson Daniel waited in the doorway. The mirror was spotted, the light yellow and soft. Jakob unwrapped a piece of paper, edges brittle with age. Inside lay the soap, thin, cracked, barely usable. He turned on the tap. Water ran clear and cold. Jakob wet his hands and touched the soap once more. The scent was faint but still there, clean and familiar. He told Daniel about a gymnasium, about rain on windows, about how fear can loosen its grip without anyone raising their voice. Daniel listened, tracing the sink's edge with one finger. Silent. Jakob set the soap back in its paper and placed it on the shelf. It no longer needed to be used. It had already done its work. Years passed quietly after that. When Jakob was gone, the soap remained. A small square of proof passed from hand to hand, because sometimes the moment that stays with us isn't the one where we're hurt, but the one where we're unexpectedly treated with care. If this story stayed with you, share it softly. These are the moments worth remembering.